New York, London, Madrid, Mumbai. We now join a terrible brotherhood. Cities left scarred by the trauma of terrorism. For Boston, a capital city that prides itself as a family of neighborhoods, residents are just beginning to comprehend this new and cruel burden. Jared Bowen has more.
Boston has been touched in a way that once seemed unimaginable by the hands of presumed terrorists intent on turning the lightness of celebration into the darkness of fear. For some, it has worked. The city Chloe Webb was raised in, today she was eager to leave. How comfortable, safe, and secure do you feel today?
Not so much. I'm rushing to get back to my dad. He's picking me up now. It's just really it's really nerve-wracking. It's in the air. It feels different.
I don't feel safe because obviously, this happened, and because this could happen anywhere.
Sarita Nadkarni is an Emerson college student whose dorm was placed on lockdown last night. Just as her surrounding streets are filled with National Guard troops, Nadkarni says she is filled with a sense of unease.
It was just, everyone was kind of in a frantic state, and we were just trying to keep our cool, and we just didn't know how to react to this and how to process. We're still processing it now.
Now, obviously, the Boston of today is very different from the Boston of yesterday morning before the attacks. But despite all of the fears that we heard people talking about today, there is also a renewed sense of unity.
I feel better today about our city and the way that the first responders reacted and the people running into danger. That's a mark of our city and of our country. And you wake up sometimes on these mornings feeling with an enormous sense of loss, but you ultimately feel like the reason that we will prevail is because we are a great city and a great country.
On Newbury Street, where just 1 block away, investigative teams outfitted in special suits combed through the streets. There was a drive for some sense of normalcy. While a number of stores remained closed, the streets teemed with curious onlookers and Bostonians going about their business. At the 2-century-old jewelry store Shreve Crump and Low, employees unfurled an American flag.
I wanted to show people that it's bigger. There's so much. The whole country is so big, and we have to take pride. Yesterday was Patriots Day, and I wanted to show that patriotism and show the belief in the fact that we are stronger today than we'll ever be, and that we can rise up from challenges like this and continue to grow.
For many, like Anita Walker, today was about finding balance, about recognizing that while her sense of security has evaporated, this is also a moment that cries for resiliency.
I was standing in front of Marathon Sports watching the finish line until 20 minutes before that blast. I watched people come and go and stand next to me, mothers with babies in their strollers, and everybody was there with such a positive purpose. Everybody was there for such a good reason, and there was such a sense of community then, before the blast, and there's a sense of community now.
All right, and Jared Bowen is here. Well, Jared, you and I were walking all over downtown completely. We actually walked the complete perimeter. It was eerie. From the police presence to passing people like Wolf Blitzer and Scott Pelley and all the international press. What was your personal just kind of reaction to it?
This is something I'm dealing with just as anybody else in the city is dealing with. This happened to my city. I live in the city. I'm in the city 5 nights a week, going to events and cultural events. These are all places with which I really identify. What we're registering now is that this happened here and it happened to us. I think when we see other events happen overseas, and we have to remember that this is routine in places like Afghanistan and Iraq, but they're anonymous places. We can't identify with those areas. We don't travel to them necessarily. So now we're walking the perimeter this morning and coming to terms with the fact that Boylston Street can look like this post-apocalyptic set from a film. It's almost incomprehensible. It's so difficult to digest that this has happened here and that things really have forever changed. I feel like this is the immediate 24 hours, and hopefully things will change and enlighten. But I think there's a layer of darkness over our lives now to realize that this has happened.
We were talking personally, just saying that in some ways Boston has kind of an inferiority complex. We're not important enough. We're not big enough. We're not Washington. We're not New York. We're not L.A. We're not one of these power centers, maybe even like Chicago. So why this, why us, unless it was personal to Boston for some particular reason?
Well, one can only imagine that it had everything to do with, as your guests were just saying, Patriots Day and Tax Day, and the viability of a soft target in the Boston Marathon. And I think that everyone is really trying to process that now. And I found there's such heightened emotion at this point too. We were talking in the first part of our morning to the runners. I mean, running a marathon. I've run the Boston Marathon. It's in and of itself, it's its own trauma. So you're going through this physical trauma, and then you also have the euphoria of this sort of achievement, and then add to that what just happened in our lives in this country, in this city, and the epic confusion. And I mean, I know you were as well. I was so struck when we saw those people collecting their bags and getting their medals, and I think almost every single person who turned around had tears pouring down their face.
Also being in that press conference this morning with every critical person in the city, from the mayor to the governor to the head of the FBI to the state police to the U.S. attorney. I mean, it was like, once again, those are gatherings you expect to see in Washington, D.C.
Well, and I think we have a new normal. I mean, we had this scary situation where the seat next to me at the press conference was empty. Somebody had left their cell phone there, and I was rattled. I know you were rattled, because we're in the new normal now. It can't be normal that somebody in this room with the governor, with our two senators, leaves their cell phone on. And we had to make a fuss in order to figure out who it was. It was somebody who had slipped out of their pocket.
Yeah, exactly.